So welcome everybody. This is actually, would you believe, our 86th Camberley Chess Club Tuesday Zoom meeting, which the first one was end of March last year. So Cyrus, you joined us in, I think, February this year.
Right, right.
And we've had some very, very distinguished guests, including yourself, and it's great to welcome you back. So I think
Thank you for inviting me back. It was fun last time, and I bet it'll be fun today.
I hope so. So let me pass it over to you, Cyrus.
Okay, thanks. Well, okay, Camberley folk, gather around. I have a very important secret that can raise your rating 100 points. All you have to do is play in harmony with your style. And if your style is opposite of the opponent's, it's even better. It's even better then, because you need to force positions that are in disharmony with the opponent's style. I'm going to show examples of both ways today, but let me start with the parable of Christopher Lee. Okay, like you know, like I remember when I was like maybe 8 or 9, I watched one of the Christopher Lee Dracula movies, and do you notice that, like, what's his name? Jonathan Harker and Dr. Van Helsing, that's it. Van Helsing, they always like try to put the stake through Dracula's heart in the coffin. You notice it's right at sunset with seconds going down. I think that's what we, and of course, what happens is just before the sun goes down, he bursts through the coffin and like starts kicking butt. Okay, that's what, honestly, that's what we do. We make the Van Helsing and Jonathan Harker blender. Also, like Bond villains, early Bond villains, stupid. Just shoot Bond. Don't put him in a Shark Tank with lasers or anything like that. Just, you know, keep it simple. Anyway, there's really only, from my 40 plus years of teaching, I found that there's only 2 types of players. There's doves and hawks. Okay, doves are like, I'm like an extreme dove. Okay, like Ulf Anderson would be an extreme dove if you're familiar with his style of play. You know, the more pieces off the board, the stronger they get. The late middle game, they just start, the strength starts going up. End game, strength rockets. Clear strategic plans, strength rockets. Then there's, you know, like the hawks, who are like the chaoticists. I mean, you know who they are. I mean, like, you know, Nepomniachtchi, Nakamura, like they're the more, even Carlsen really, but Carlsen is both hawk and dove. But by the way, please jump in if you have questions. I hate being a lecturer. I much prefer if you, you know, a back and forth. So if anyone has any questions, please jump in. I'm going to show you an example of like how not to play. Okay, first of all, this was a disastrous game for me. Like, let me flip the board here. I was black against Alex Babarin in 2001 here at this IMGM tournament, and I wanted him in a boring position. He's a hawk. Okay, I looked at his games. He's a hawk, and I wanted the game as boring and as technical as possible. But watch how he just wouldn't let me do it. No matter how much I tried to, you know, keep the position stable, he kept destabilizing, even if it wasn't good for him. Like, even if it was like intrinsically in my favor. So, okay, so I knew we'd get this. Okay, he usually plays this way. I should have, with hindsight, I should never have played e6. This is a blunder, okay, because it lets him make the position much more complicated. This line is a lot more boring, you know. This line here, like where it goes bishop f5, knight c3, e6 here, and usually bishop g6, and they now the hot thing is they immediately take. And this position is really solid, and it's very hard for white to squeeze anything out of that bishop pair. But he wouldn't have gotten the type of game he got when I played this. But I planned a very boring line. Now I actually had planned to play like an Ulf Anderson style one where you go knight BD7, B6, bishop B7, but he did not let me make the position simple. Okay, so normal, by the way, is knight C3. Okay, here, and then usually you take and you get the normal Miran like this. So anyway, here discourages take, okay, because the knight will recapture and he's got that control over E5. So in this version, you usually don't take. And I was planning this setup anyway. Oh, let me show you something. I didn't even notice it. Is this the, yeah, this is a blitz game I played against Kasparov, okay, like just in the notes, okay, that I drew here. Okay, like, I'm just gonna go through it really fast. We don't need to analyze it. Just watch how boring it is, okay? Like if he had gotten any kind of complications, I would have been a dead man, okay? So like, it looks like he's gaining something, but really not. I go here threatening mate. And now I just boot him out. He really can't go into C7 or the knight will get trapped. And see, doesn't it look kind of like a Caro-Kann position, you know, where it's equal? It's just a boring position. Watch, he couldn't do anything. Like it was just super boring. He won't let me trade queens. I knew that. He's trying crap with C5. So I go here. This actually sets a trap here. If he goes here, it's an overpress. Black plays here, and on queen takes, not only is there a hole here, and not only is black threatening mate in one, this is a bad bishop. The king can easily live here very comfortably. This might be even strategically lost already for white. But, you know, this is Kasparov when he was world champion. Okay, like I think this game was 96. So like he's not going to fall for something stupid like that. Okay, so he goes here, and you know, we played on and on and on. Okay, but he couldn't do anything. It's just too boring. So like, see, even a schmuck can draw a much higher rated player. If the schmuck is a dove, okay, you can draw a hawk if you just drain the position of all fun. Think of yourself as like a Amish elder, where you're completely against fun, no fun. Then you'll draw if you're a dove. And of course, if you're a natural hawk, you have to reverse all this. Okay, everything I'm saying, you just reverse. But watch how Babarin just did not let me get the kind of game I wanted. It's a common inaccuracy for people to put the bishop here, because when they go bishop here and knight here, you can't go knight takes knight, you see, because pawn takes, if there's a bishop here, it would lose a piece. So it's actually more accurate to put the bishop here. So you have the option of knight takes knight when they play knight e5. And okay, so here. This is what I was afraid of, honestly. And I remember this was actually a famous game because it was just like a crazy wild game, and Babarin actually played like really brilliantly to win it. But this Ilya I don't know how to pronounce his last name, Ilya Sersarsky. Okay, he says, why not e4? I would have jumped for joy at e4, because then I get my Caro-Kann position again. I've been in this type of position a lot, and this one, I know how to play. I won't get mated. I know how to play this one. I was much more afraid of Babarin's plan, which is the go all out plan. I knew he was going to play like f4 and go for it on my king. So what's the principle when you're being you're not even attacked on the wing, but you're about to be attacked on the wing? So what's the principle?
Counterattack in the middle.
Correct. So I went here. It's not so scary that the queen is here. I'm going to move it in one move. You know, I mean, I'm going to do this if the file's open. And I would just, you know, I would take back with a pawn if he took on c5. Anyway, okay, so I knew he was going to do this. So, all right, again, I keep wanting to open the middle, but I don't want to open too much. I don't really want to open here and give him that open e file. And then if I take here, okay, I don't want tricks, you know, later with f5 on my bishop here. I prefer to just keep the tension like this. And so now I move this rook here. Why would I do that? Why not the other rook, which is not developed? What do you think would be the reasoning?
F7.
Yeah, he's going all out. And so I want f7 reinforced. So, and I know he's going to play f5, so I probably want my rook here. If I am going to move it, it's going to go to e8, not d8, c8. Okay, so he went here, and this is not a good move. He probably should have played rook cd1, but I kind of expected it. So again, when being attacked on the wing, counter in the center. Okay. Now if he goes fe, it's bad for him. I just take. You see his structure is, if he does this, I'm going to take here. I'm not going to accept the exchange. You know, and this is a terrible position for black. I mean, for white, sorry. I mean, I'm threatening queen d7. I'm threatening his rook. His pawn structure is broken. He's got no dark squares. There's no way black is going to lose this. And black will probably win. So he went knight df3 as I expected. And now I played the wrong plan here. What would you do? I played rook fe8, which is not correct. And I think black's in trouble after that. What is a good plan here for black, do you think?
Does c takes d4 work now?
I didn't like it. I don't want c5 stuff on my queen. It's actually quite surprising, the refutation. But white is busted in this position, like actually losing in this position. What you do is, it's hard to find a move like this since it's so counterintuitive. And Alex told me after the game, he said right after he played f5, he said, "Oh my God, that's a strategic blunder," and he realized he was losing. But I didn't see the refutation, and that's because I'm not a hawk. There's too many pieces on the board for me. I get confused. Like I need simplicity to find good moves. I need clarity. So anyway, this is what I played, but the correct move is to take here, which is completely counterintuitive. Okay, because you give up bishop pair in an open position. But see what happens now. You play e5 exclam. Now your threat is e4. Okay, it's not, white doesn't have time to play d5 because I'll just play e4, winning piece. So the problem now is if he does this, see, this is a terrible position here for white. Like I can do something like this, and there goes his good bishop, you see. And he's stuck with this lemon. He'll never mate me with the center so open. He'll never be able to get away with f4 and e5. This will always have tricks. Black has a strategically won game. And Alex saw this during the game, but I didn't, unfortunately. I played here. And now he's got a really dangerous attack. I could have taken with the f pawn, but I didn't, you know, I didn't like this position. My king is really underprotected here. And I didn't want that I didn't want knight g5 crap coming. And if I play like knight f6 or knight f8, then he has rook takes knight and then take on h7. So I took with the rook, which I wasn't happy about. See, what I hate here is I can't take with the queen or rook. Why not?
Bishop f5.
Yeah, I mean, or you know, believe it or not, the engine doesn't even want to play bishop f5. the engine, I mean, I was obviously afraid of bishop f5 because a human would be afraid of such a move. But the engine actually prefers not to take the exchange. And this is just completely crushing here. And this is like resigns here. It's just, you know, complete massacre on the light squares, queen h5 coming in, it's all over. So there's no choice. There's no choice in the matter. I've got to take with the knight. And like you take with the knight, it's like, oh my God, you know, like Morphe amateur coming, right? Like I knew he was going to try some crap based on either the Greek gift on h7 or d5 I knew was first, okay? Because he wants to open that bishop's diagonal on and target g7. Okay, now I made a typical dove error here, where I had a choice. Okay, I could play a strategically better move and put my king at risk, or I could play a strategically inferior move and my king is a lot safer. Doves don't like strategic inferiority. We're actually much braver than hawks when under attack. We're not afraid of being attacked nearly as much as a hawk is. I should have put my rook to h6.
Yeah.
I put it here, and this is just asking for it. I mean, look at this, you know, like gulp, here, knight g5, like, oh my God, you know, like everything at my king, right? And I knew something was going to be horrible. I should have just groveled with rook h6 here, threatening here. Okay, I didn't like this position here. You know, like I did not like this position here. Where now, like maybe I play something like this, and then my rook is out of play. But he's not going to mate me. Maybe I can get away with. No, I can't get away with that. He'll just play queen f7, and I still have to play f6, don't I? So rook d7 doesn't really work here. You know, he'll just play queen f2. Anyway, this scared me here. I thought, oh my God, rook out of play for life. You know, I mean, maybe not for life, but at least I'm not getting mated here, and I can play rook d7 here. You know, and I have a little bit of play. Bishop c8. You know, it's better than what I did because this should just lose here now. Fortunately, the good thing is about chaotic positions is even hawks everybody makes mistakes. I mean, the only positions you notice Carlsen loses are completely irrational ones where just everything goes completely haywire because no human can always play correctly. I'm actually writing a book right now on how to deal with irrational positions. And it's amazing. Guys like Tal made all sorts of mistakes in them. It's just they made fewer than their opponents. That's all. Anyway, he picked the wrong one. Knight g5 is really, really difficult to meet. What he did was actually dubious, and black should be better after his sack. See, this is going to be rough here. This is going to be really rough. Here, threatening mate on, you know, queen takes and queen h8 mate. And you know, this is not going to be pleasant here for black. This is a strong attack here. I don't believe black would survive this, but he went for it. I actually thought he would do that, and to tell you the truth, I didn't mind because I thought I intuitively felt black should survive this. And yeah, on paper, black should, like the engine says black should survive and actually win maybe. But it's too difficult to find the moves. That's the problem. From a practical perspective, it was a bad choice on my part to let him do this. Okay, so obviously I'm not going up. That's bad news. So I'm going back. Okay, so here he's threatening mate with queen h7, queen h8. Okay, so I go here, and now he lifts. Okay. I'm starting to panic, okay? Here. I originally intended bishop c8, which is the correct move. And the engine gives like you know, this is supposed to be okay for black according to the engine. In fact, black is maybe slightly better. Although it doesn't look like it. It sure doesn't look like it when you look at it. but I think what I was terrified of was G4 followed by Rook H3, and I completely forgot I had Queen D7, which forces H3, and then that cuts off his Rook here. And now I go here, and not only am I on this, but I'm also threatening F6, swapping queens.
Mhm.
And if he gets desperate and tries something crazy like this, obviously I'm not going to take that. I'm not going to take that Rook. Okay, I'm just going to play here. And the attack is, now I'm threatening to take the Rook. And as soon as he moves it, I can play F6, and his E3 pawn will fall, and black is up a piece and completely winning. So anyway, I should have played Bishop C8 and didn't, and I went into semi-panic mode with Bishop check.
Mm.
I knew he wasn't going to, like, just liquidate, liquidation sale like here, and then like black is clearly better now. Like black is better in this position. So I knew 100% he wasn't going to take it. The problem is he'll just play King H1, and he's going to swing that Rook over here and then mate me. So I have to play here. Okay, and my threat is Rook H6 now. Bishop G3, blocking out the Rook doesn't work. See, he can take here, and this is bad. He's threatening Queen G4 followed by Knight E6. It's really bad. Not to mention like my F7 pawn. This is lost for black. So I knew I had to play Rook D6. But do you see the point? This is not where I excel at all. I play like 150 points weaker than my rating, at least, in such positions. And Alex is a natural attacker. He's like right in his element. So boom, like, oh no, I didn't think he would find that. Like, okay, so he goes here. Now I'm in total panic mode. I'd seen this move early, by the way. I'd seen Bishop takes G7, and I'd actually planned on this move. And the idea is Rook H6. Now the computer says that black escapes with F5, quadruple exclam, like, and it gives some crazy line which no human on earth could ever find. Anyway, like I played Bishop F4. Of course, he's not going to fall for Rook takes and then Rook H6. So he played here. And now he, look at his tactical acuity. I had actually foreseen this position, and I thought I was so brilliant. I was positive he was going to play here, and I was going to play here. And then he was going to make the boneheaded move F5. And do you see the problem with F5? Black to play and win.
Rook takes.
F5.
Yeah, weak back rank. Right. He can't touch it. Weak back rank. And there just one check. It's no problem. King F8, no problem. White is completely losing here in this position. But, this is a pretty, at that time, like now we're both old and we both suck. But like at that time, he was a very strong GM. Okay. But Rook takes F4, like, oh, I didn't consider that. I also saw, like, I thought he might try this and then take. And again, same problem. F5 is not a threat because of Rook takes. And I'm threatening Rook takes myself on F4. And white is losing here. But of course, he doesn't fall for any of that. And he takes with the Rook exclam. So I take. Queen H8 forces mate in, I forgot how many, but it's hard for a human to see. It's I forgot what the problem is. The threat now is check, followed by Rook H6 check. The king will go to F6, then the Rook checks on H6, then the queen takes here, and then the Rook goes to H8, and black is mated. Now we both missed that. We were both in serious time trouble. This was one of the first FIDE tournaments with it was like game in 90 with 30-second increments. And what happens there is you eat up, you think with that 30-second increment, you're not afraid to get down to 10 seconds, because I can always just build it back up with fast moves. And so you completely abuse your clock, okay? And by move 15, you're down to 5 minutes. Like I was doing that like every game. By move 20, by move 29 here, I probably had 5 minutes on the clock, and so did he. Anyway, okay, so I check here. There was only one practical chance, and it was rook e8. I played here. Can someone find the combination, White's winning combination from this position? See, he spotted it in a flash with just minutes on his clock.
H6.
Now say again.
Rook H6. I want to take
No,
on F4 with my queen.
It's White's move. It's White's move.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, and then oh, you mean Queen H6? No, the rook would be covering that.
The rook.
It's White's move.
Queen takes the rook with check.
Oh, it's check.
Yeah,
oh, I
yeah.
haven't done that bit yet. I was away when we did checks.
No, rook H6 doesn't work.
I knew that
So
really.
where is White's winning combination here? Now he saw this with like 3 minutes on his clock, just like boom, boom. He played it instantly. I missed it. You know, by the way, you know what the weird thing is? I'm a really, really good blitz player for my rating. I still am, but at that time I was like incredibly strong in blitz. I probably could beat Baburin in a 5-minute match at that time. In blitz I'm super strong, but in time pressure I'm like a complete turkey. I don't get it. Maybe nerves, I don't know. But there's this IM that I used to play all the time, Aldama. He's a 2015 American Open champion, like really strong IM. And I beat him every blitz match we ever played, but he gets outplayed in these game 45 games that we play. And then we both get down to only a few minutes, and I'm the one that blunders always. I'm like a really good blitz player and a horrible time pressure player. Probably because I abuse my clock worse than the opponent, so I'm giving time odds. I'm usually behind. While in a blitz game, you start at 5-5, or it could just be nerves, right? But I think I have pretty good nerves. The combination, see here, anyone have an idea or no?
I'm looking at knight e6.
Yep.
Knight e6, probably I can just take it like this.
Okay.
I think black's gonna win. I think this is going to be good for black. But see, he has queen check.
Yeah. Queen
yeah, and then oops, queen h4 gulp, threatening my rook, threatening knight e6, and that's that, right? I played on, but I mean it was completely hopeless. I played here, and he actually mopped me up very efficiently. Like we won't spend too much time on this because it's completely lost, but he's on my f7, he's on my rook. Then he played here, you know, like he's got that majority, right? He could push down the board, the G pawn down the board if he wants. I'm trying desperately. This is a natural move. And he found a refutation to this, you know, like I counted on this move to, you know, get free my bishop and at least make a fight of it and get a pass C pawn. But he found an immediate refutation to that. He played queen h4 on my rook. I thought no problem, but then he went here and I realized, oh no, now I saw that I was dead. He's on my c5, and when I go here, he goes here. And I resigned because the problem is if I go, what's the problem with a6? Where is White's forced win?
a4
on a6. a4, b4, and then rook takes b4, correct? Yeah, like what happens is rook b3, a6, a4, and if I play here, boom, and mate. So, okay, that's a really, really bad way for a dove to play that game. Okay, I got completely out-hawked by him that game. So now if you are a hawk, and you know, by the way, like I say, in my 40 plus years of teaching, there are very, very few 50-50 players. Okay. You know who's a 50-50 between Hawk and Dove is Carlson. Fisher was pretty close, but I'd say he was more Dove than Hawk.
Cyrus,
Yes,
these
yes.
words are not well known to us. Sorry, but I'm not the only person here who won't know what you mean.
Yeah, we understand what he means, that the hawk attacks and a dove is positional.
Right, exactly.
Well-
Like Dove is endgame, you know, strategic. Okay, I'll show you how a Dove plays next game. Hang on.
More mid.
Okay.
Have you ever played Peter Tart? He's a hawk.
No, I played lots of Hawks. I mean, I'm telling you, but I would say Doves are more rare. I would say like it's a 70-30 ratio, or maybe 60-40. Okay,
Smithlow.
this is against GM Malik Kachin. Now, this is an ideal Dove, and I'll show you some ideal Dove games now. The trick is just don't do like that first game. I did the Van Helsing blunder, the Harker blunder. It's sunset. Don't go after Dracula at sunset. Go after him at 8 a.m. You know, he's trapped then. He can't get out of the coffin. Anyway, you know who else did that blunder was the early, who watched, did you get the early Batman, the 60s Batman?
Yes.
In England?
Yeah.
I bet you did.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. They never just shot Batman and Robin when they had him. They always did some ridiculous thing. It always involved like conveyor belts. If you notice, like when the conveyor belt reaches there, the saw will cut you in half. Just shoot them. They always get out to, and they didn't remove the utility belt either. Like blunder after blunder. Okay, this is how to really frustrate a Hawk here. Okay. Kachin had lost. This is state championship. California is so large that the U.S. Chess Federation cuts it into Southern California and Northern California. It's considered two states in the U.S. For when it comes to state championship, state closed championship. Anyway, Kachin's a GM. He's a pure Hawk. Okay. He had lost last game. And he had black. That is the perfect time to face a Hawk. He wants to beat you and he's black, okay? So with white, you have a lot more leeway to make the game boring. Oh, let me flip it, so because I'm white this game. Okay, so I open with here, okay, and he goes C5. Yeah, right, like I'm gonna play a Sicilian, open Sicilian. No. I played here. This is the only opening that's named after me, okay? It's actually called the Lakdawala Accelerated. GM Jesse Cry was sitting next to me when I played this on a couple of GMs at a tournament in Reno in the early 2000s. And I've been playing this thing for years against Hawks. If I know the guy's a Hawk, they don't want to face a reverse Slav. I play Slav with black. So I'm in a position I already play, but with a move up. And I like boring. I like Collie. I like anything. Torre is great. You know, anything boring. London. Anyway, he made fun of it in a video and called it the Lakdawala Accelerated. But I had the last laugh. Carlson plays it all the time. Have you noticed Carlson plays knight F3, C5, C3? He plays it all the time. Okay, so Kachin is already out of his normal element. I think this was a mistake. Kachin normally plays Grunfeld. I think he would have been better with some sort of ready setup like this, and like maybe here. It would have been, you know, and then G6. I think he would have been much more like close to his normal setup, but he played here. So I played here, and I could go into London. You know, London is at Bishop F4. Torre is Bishop here. But most boring is Collie, because you don't even let him have queen here and here ideas, you know. Basically, I'm playing the reverse position of Baburin, but I'm a move up this time, which makes a big difference. So he goes into Queen's Indian versus Collie, and he equalizes quite comfortably, but you could see he doesn't feel comfortable there. if he wanted to draw, he would play something like this, and you
Oh.
know, trade off that my good bishop. The game becomes even more boring. But you know, he's a GM. Okay, I'm white. I don't mind drawing him if he wanted to do something like that. I knew 100% he wasn't going to, but I knew he had to play for a win because he had a bad start in this tournament with a loss there in the round before mine. Okay, so he goes d6. Probably the safest way to equality would be here, and I was actually planning to be really obnoxious and take this way, and kind of use the threat of a draw, like use drawing as a threat. Like you started with a bad tournament, come beat me from this position, you know. So it's very, very hard to lose this with white. So he keeps the tension. He goes here. Okay. So I take the center. So castle here. This kind of tells me he doesn't know what he's doing in this position. He wants to play a Roy Lopez, you know, like he wants to play like a closed Lopez. And I think it's a crappy Lopez because when I play d5, this bishop gets buried, right? When he plays e5 and I play here, this bishop really stinks on bishop on b7. On top of it, like I'm really good in closed positions and he's really good in open positions. That's exactly what I wanted. So I'm thinking about expanding. Also, I don't want any tricks of him playing knight c6, CD, and then knight b4. So it's a useful move. He goes here, and this is a typical Lopez maneuver for bringing the knight over to g3. And I think this is weak. I think he's just in a really bad Lopez. Not really bad, but just semi-bad Lopez. Or you can even think of it as a bad King's Indian, where he's fianchettoed into a wall. And okay, so he goes here, knight g3. And I'm not going to let him play c4 and b5 and knight c5 and gain play. I'm just, now it's actually more like a King's Indian or an old Indian, right? And this is a guy that excels in open positions. He's like an active piece player. This is the worst position for a GM like this. Okay, I'm a stronger strategist than he is. He's just a better tactician. By the way, I've met loads of GMs that I consider really mediocre positional players. I've never met a GM who's a weak tactician ever. I mean, they're always incredible tacticians, every one of them.
Keys.
Which tells you that tactics is more important than strategic play. It's more weighted than strategic play. Okay, so now he goes here, and you know, he should have played g6, okay, like a normal King's Indian, but it's a crappy King's Indian. Like I say, I don't know what he's up to. I think he wants to play like knight f8, knight g6, but it's not a good plan. I go in, and you know, if he plays g6, I'm going to take his bad bishop because that's also the steward of his kingside dark squares. So he goes bishop d8, which is a little strange because he's preserving his bad bishop, but otherwise my knight just sits there. So Roy Lopez plan, okay, h3, knight h2, knight g4, queen f3, kingside attack, right? Okay, so he goes here. He wants to maybe take on f5, which I really don't mind because that's his good bishop. But I want him to, I don't even want to wreck my pawns at all. I want to recapture with the queen. So he goes here, and you know, this just stops any knight h4 crop. And I think this is like another strategic error. He thought I was going to mate him here. Like he thought, you know, there's going to be a big buildup. Now, honestly, I would have risked mate than his next move. He was so worried about getting mated that he gave another concession here. He gave me his good bishop because he thought that knight was just too strong. By the way, do you see why knight e7 is not good?
You got knight G7 and bishop H6 on, or?
I'm not sure about that. I can play knight H6 also, but like, yeah, I looked at that. Let's see if that works. Okay, check here. Well, can he take it? He might be able to take that in knight G6. I don't think this, but probably this is extremely awkward here, you know. Then he has to go here. And then there's bishop G5, and you know, he's getting awfully nervous here. I even have G4 intending G5. But bishop G5 looks really tough. Anyway, he took. Okay, so queen takes. And now this is like a dream come true for me, okay? Like, thanks for the 100-point boost. Okay, he's still worried about getting mated, right? Except that I'm a terrible attacker for an IM, but I'm a really strong endgame player for an IM. So it's like, this is exactly what I wanted, is the queen trade here. So let's talk about this position a bit. Like, what are White's advantages? Can you list them? What are all of White's strategic advantages here?
A lot more space.
Yeah,
Two bishops.
central space, not only central space, but expansion with b4 and f4, like expansion possibilities on both wings, while black is extremely unlikely to expand. f5 will be a miracle if he could do it. b5, he could probably do it, but he probably doesn't want to do it because I'll play bishop d2, b4, and blast open the queen side for my bishops. Okay, so extra space. What else?
Black squared bishop is a really bad piece. Doesn't look like it's ever going to
Crappy
improve.
bishop.
You've got
As soon as you,
no
as soon as there's a bad bishop, by the way, something automatically comes with a bad bishop. Whenever the opponent has a bad bishop, that automatically means that the opponent is weak on the other color. Okay, he's got weak light squares. Like, I have potential for stuff like this later. Anytime an opponent has a bad bishop, instantly that means they're weak on the other color. And last thing is bishop pair. Now the game is closed, but it's probably going to open later with b4, f4. It's not going to be closed forever and ever. So I was pretty happy here. Okay, so now I go here. If he trades, I take with my h pawn, and then I can think about you know, g5, king g2, rook h1, pressuring h7. And if he plays h6, I can play f4, not allowing bishop g5. I thought he should have traded because the principle is when you're cramped, trade, but he didn't want to improve my pawn structure, so he went here. And he wanted me to trade, but I'm not going to. This is the principle: avoid trades when you control extra space. So he goes here. What's his idea? He's actually got two ideas here.
Well, does he want to play the bishop out to g5?
Yeah, which I'm not going to allow. I'm going to stop that right away. The other idea with this is he plans, you know, like maybe knight e7, g6, knight g7, f5. He wants to get active even if I have the bishop pair. Okay, so I play h4. So he plays knight f8. I thought he would go to e7, but he played to f8. So now let's start expanding. That's going to be tough for him to play f5. I've got 1, 2, 3 on that. He's got 1. He can get a second, but it's going to be hard to get a third. He's going to have to play f6, rook f7, and as you'll see, that has some problems. Okay, so I play here. Maybe the wrong rook. You know, that's a dovish move because this rook probably belongs here on f1 after f4, or just on e1 on f4. If he ever takes, my e pawn may need reinforcing. So he plays here. He's after his f5 plan. Okay, now he's ready to play. Well, he's not ready. He needs knight g7. Okay, so I play here. That way my rook can either go to b2 depending on circumstances, or e2 or f2. Now he's ready for f5. So what should I do? What's my plan? I took first on here. Now, I didn't think he was going to give me the file. You know what I was most afraid of, honestly, was an exchange sacrifice of here. Like where suddenly I do have a bad bishop, but I mean, this has to be eventually winning for white too. But I was more afraid of that than any other capture. He's a Grunfeld player, so Grunfeld guys are used to these structures where they have a knight here and white has a passed d pawn. I had a feeling he would take back with the d pawn. Okay, so now he's about to play f5, so I stop him. Now his e5 pawn would hang. So he's threatening f5 again, and this gains some time. I'm threatening to fork him on h6. You see, he can't move his rook because then f6 falls, so he has only one move. And now this is really annoying. When I go there, his rook is chased away, and now all of a sudden, again, I have 1, 2, 3 on f5, and he only has 2, and he's going to have to really contort like knight e8 and king g7 to get rid of the knight, which costs some time. And the natural plan now, of course, is to play f4, so I transfer my rook there. And then f4. So he goes here. This next move, I'm not sure it's a blunder, but I thought he would play it just based on his style. This is a weakening move because now when I play knight e3 and f5, he's going to have a gaping hole on f5 if he allows pawn takes pawn. But the thing is, he doesn't want to leave this hovering because I'm about to bring this rook here, and there could be combinations on the f file and f6. So he played it. Maybe this is not really a dubious. I don't know. Maybe it's forced. I was really hoping for this next move now. Hawks are really lousy waiters. Okay, they do not like to wait. They don't like to grovel. They don't like to shuffle. And he should have done just that. But he took. And what he's praying for is that he has enough pressure on the e pawn to get counterplay. You know, like double rooks, put knight d6, that kind of thing. But the problem with that is, besides opening up e5 possibilities, is when I play king f3, I can double rooks on his now weak g6 pawn. So he plays here, you know, just to not let me play e5. I play here. Now he's threatening rook e1. I mean, rook c e8. What should I do?
E5?
Say again?
So sorry, it probably doesn't work. I'll take it back.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Rook g1?
G2 is a little better, but yes, basically move a rook to the G file. Yeah, it's not a real threat. His threat is he realized now that rook e8 does not work. Now I did work out these lines. This was not a BS thing where I hoped it worked. I actually did work out all these lines. This is fatal here. Now if he takes here, okay, I go check. Now the problem is if he goes h8, I can just take here, and if he recaptures, then mate. If he goes king f7, then he's mated this way. And if he goes to h7, this is he's threatening my bishop, but I just go here. I'm on his rook, but million times more important, I'm threatening rook h6 mate, to which there's actually no defense. You know, take mate. So, okay, now this tells us something, okay? Doves can calculate, but when it's rational, straight linear calculation, doves do not have tactical intuition. So if there's like multiple branches, that's when doves get into problems. Well, hawks have that tactical intuition and they'll naturally pick the right line. because I do remember working out all these variations, like, and they're not very deep, but there's, I guess like there's 3 or 4 of them, 3 of them. And I saw this in advance, by the way. I mean, I saw this, I worked out these lines when, like in this position, like when I actually, even before here, because all this was forced, when I played F4, I saw this position as a possible, like the one we got. So you can't play F4 unless you know you can hold E4, you see. I knew this was going to happen. Like I had a strong guess that this would be the position. Okay, so he finds the only prayer move. Okay, he goes here. Now, what should white do? How should white respond here? White has a winning move here.
Rook takes G6.
You better have a mate if you do that. Okay, like it's not E5 check. Like I can
It's
play
very
maybe
enjoyable.
F5.
E5 first.
Well, maybe, maybe here. I don't know. It's not mate, at least. After take, maybe check. See, I don't know. I mean, I guess this is winning, but it's, I don't know. You're 1 pawn up. You are winning, I guess. You are
It's
winning.
a big pawn on D5.
Well, he can play knight F8 here and cover against
Okay,
bishop
it's not being
G6,
immediately.
but he's, it's a winning position. But I think much stronger though is knight F5, because you get like a crushing position. You're forking king and rook. Okay, so take. And the problem is G6 falls, and this is a way better pawn to win. You see, it's like a connected pass pawn on G6. He's hopelessly lost here. The rest was pretty easy. Well, okay, he's threatening to infiltrate with rook E3 and rook takes bishop. So I go here. Okay, so he goes here. Come up with a plan for white here. Like, what is it? Come up with a clear winning plan for white. See, this position is a dove's paradise, this one. I mean, bishop pair, extra pawn.
Can you just win the H pawn with G5? Rook? Oh no, sorry, it's not pinned yet.
Bishop C3 first.
That doesn't
No,
work
but then
either.
if you play bishop C3, you're walking right
C3,
into this.
yeah.
Yeah,
and lost the
you
bishop.
need
Yeah,
to.
so
Oh, okay.
I first tossed in A4, okay, and this told me he's just playing for a draw, because I mean, like, he didn't want A5 and me opening the game. So now these 3 are being held back by these 2, and it essentially made me up this pawn extra. Like I'm up this pawn plus this one now. But he plans to he's hoping for a fortress. Okay. The correct plan, I found the correct plan in this position. Okay, what's his only source of irritation is this doubled rooks, okay? Now, if I trade off all the rooks, he has a prayer for a fortress. The correct plan is to trade off 1 pair of rooks. And I'll show you why in a second. This is correct. Okay, here, exclam. And now take with the bishop, not the rook. Okay, of course, he can't go knight takes G6, just bishop D3 wins, or F5 for that matter. Okay, so here's why I want 1 pair of rooks on the board. Do you see the second pawn is falling this way? Rook G5 and take, or F5, rook G5 take at some point. And there's not really any way he can stop it, because if I play F5, King H6 isn't going to work because of tricks with bishop D2. Anyway, he played here, and it's just getting worse and worse.
The C3 plan was right then, wasn't it? The C3 plan was good, but need to take
it was correct. The C3 plan was correct, but with the proviso that, like, you you must only trade one pair of rooks, not two. He has just a prayer of a, I don't think he's going to even get a fortress draw anyway, even with both rooks off, but it's really bad with that rook on the board. You know, he goes here and I went in here and it's just,
You just can't
he
do it.
resigned here. Yeah, he resigned. I'm just going to play this and then here, and then he can't play rook king h6 because of just g7. And if he ever does anything like this, I always have check, you see, in this, and I'm queening. Okay, so that's like a dream dove game. Okay, okay. Here's another game. Okay, I retired from tournament play around 2006, like slow games, but I was kind of forced to play again because of the books. I've retired from that too now, but there's a local tournament called the Gambito. It's every Saturday in San Diego. It's a game 45 tournament, and it's pretty strong. It used to be. It's really weak now, but when I played from about 2002 to 2019. I mean, it would typically have 2-3 IMs and five masters, like over 2200s. Many times like 2350s, 2450s, 2400s. It was a very strong tournament then, and I was the highest rated player, and I would win it. I would win it 4 out of 5 times still, because I'm like I said, I'm very good in rapid. I'm much stronger than my rating in rapid than slow, because I had back issues in slow, and as the tournament went on, I would get worse and worse with the back problems. But in a one-day tournament, it doesn't affect me that much. But every once in a while, we have these poachers that come in. Like this is GM Darwin Lalo. His sister lives in San Diego, so he came to San Diego for like 8 weeks, and we played. I think we played 6 out of those 8 weeks. We played 6 times, and I beat him. I beat him 2, and I drew 4, so I didn't lose to him. And it's the reason. I mean, I am, even though he's a GM and I am. You can see our USCF ratings. I'm 50 points higher than him, almost, not quite 50. I'm slightly stronger than him anyway. Okay, but I think I beat him the 2 games because I knew he was coming, and I don't think he really prepared for me very much, but I prepared for him because I take poachers very seriously. San Diego's my territory, and Aldama, any poacher I really want to hammer. I want to chase them out of my territory. So Lalo was a poacher, and the poachers must be punished and brought to justice. So I studied his style, and he's also kind of a, 70% hawk, like really aggressive player, exceedingly aggressive player. And I saw that he played Grunfeld, and I saw that he played this line like when I studied his games. So it was a bit of a bluff. Okay, it was a little bit of a bluff, because if he knows the right idea, it's just equal. I played this Ulf Anderson line. Okay, where you go here, and the Grunfeld guy goes, "Oh boy, it's a Grunfeld," and then you go, "No, I'm sorry, it's not," and you take this way. This is like a super party pooper move, right? DC, really? Like, this is Ulf Anderson's specialty, by the way, this DC line. And it makes sense. If your rating goes up 100 points with queens off the board, why would you go BC? And play right into a heavy theoretical position, like, like a position Svidler and Nepomniachtchi like to play, right? This is just like no fun, this position. So they take, but really it's no disadvantage. It's no disadvantage whatsoever, because the king will go to C2, okay? And already I know I'm either going to win or draw this game if queens come off in this position. I have a lot of experience in this position, and he was thinking, and clearly he was not up on it, or he forgot the lines in it. So he goes here. this is already considered an inaccuracy. The way you're supposed to equalize is F6, but I can still beat Hawks in this position. I'll show you like a little snippet of a game. This is against a 24-30 player, this game. I'm white. You know, so this is a pretty nice position for white. You know, he's got a bad bishop. He's weak on the light squares. You know, I can challenge the D file, and then my knight has access to here, but C4 is a good square too. But already he was in trouble. This is a 24-30 player, and this is supposed to be easy. This is a line where black gets easy equalities, but there's subtleties in the equal line. Here's a famous Ulf Andersson game. This against, is it Temponi? I think it's his opponent is Temponi. I'm going to show you like some of the typical ideas of it. I'm just going to go through quickly. This is a weak move because now he's got to babysit A6. That's another weak move because he's going to be weak on the light squares. And you know, another bad move. He doesn't want to. His rook doesn't want to be stuck guarding it, but he's better off than weakening. And look how easily he won this game in a line that's supposed to be equal. He just took, and you see, black is just crushed on the light squares. And because the king is out there, the king is safer with one pair of rooks off. Also, it's much harder to guard the b6 pawn. Now, if you take right away, black at least has rook check and rook takes pawn. So he went here, and now he took. And see, rook check is just blocked. And resigns. King takes c4. I mean, that was completely effortless. Completely conceptual game, right? Totally conceptual game. No tactics whatsoever in that game. But that's an ideal dove win right there. Andersson Temponi, 1979. Anyway, okay, so I go bishop f4, and he played the same. C6 and c5 are sort of the same. It's sort of the same. You have the same idea, and this I've seen Ulf Andersson do this idea a million times. So I was playing like instantly here. You know, I knew this position very well. See, here's the problem. When I play bishop e3, how is he going to defend that pawn? He can no longer play b6. You see, because I just go pawn takes pawn. His a8 rook would hang if he recaptured. And he saw the problem. Okay, so he goes here, which is a good move. Okay, and now he defends it with his rook. But do you see it's awkward? And now the fight is on the queen side, so this is a good move. That's his best piece. Get rid of his best piece. He's still worried about his c pawn. That's an itchy move typical of a hawk, this f5, okay? I would have just done nothing, brought my king over to e8, but of course, then I'm just gonna expand on the king side. I'm gonna play f4, g4, h4, h5, you know, g5, whatever. But it's very unpleasant to do that. I don't blame him for this, but I was glad to see it. So I'm on his knight. And now I'm provoking a hole on d6. I want him to do this. And see, this is a pretty bad position for black now. I own the file. I own the only open file. His rook has to keep protecting this guy. There's potential of infiltration to d8. If he plays bishop f6 to stop it, I'll play here, threatening just take and take on e6. Take the knight, take on e6. And it's unpleasant. This is an unpleasant position. So he plays king f7 and I play here. Okay, so he trades. Do you see the problem with bishop f6 here? Like, do you see the tactics involved with bishop f6? If he plays bishop f6, what happens?
Is it knight d6?
Well, if you go bishop here, eventually you go here first, threatening to just take that pawn. That weakens his b6 now. Then you go check. Then you fork rook and bishop. And now you just take the bishop. And if king takes, he loses a piece. So watch how he got outplayed strategically. Okay, but watch how this game, not till the very end did he fall for a tactic. He was tactically incredibly aware. It was very hard to nail him with any tactic, which is typical of any GM. As I said, I've met loads of GMs that I consider weak strategically. I don't think Lalo is a very strong strategist. I'm not at all afraid of him in any strategic position or any endgame. But I am afraid of him tactically. If it's a crazy position, he's way better than me. So he didn't fall for that trap. He played here, only move. And it's an aggressive move. He's trying to mobilize on the king side. Now, do you see why knight d6 check works? Can you work out why? It looks like a blunder, right? Because black will just play king e7. Why does it work?
We take on f5. Oh no.
No, because then he'll take my rook on d8.
That's why I stopped speaking.
You got bishop g5 check.
Yeah,
Exactly.
Oh,
Let's look at I'll show you the lines. And I worked out these lines. Like I say, doves are not weak calculators. If the lines are narrow and forcing, we're actually pretty good calculators. It's only when there's choices that we get messed up, because we don't have tactical intuition. He went here, exclam, only move. I was like bitterly disappointed. I had so many traps set here. Okay, let's see. Okay, king e7, as you pointed out, check. Okay, bishop f6. Bishop f6 loses a piece to take here, and do you see the trick? Knight b5 exclam leaves white up a piece. And okay, so after bishop g5, king e6. Now you have a little trick. You go knight e8, forking rook and bishop. The only move is f7. If you go to d7, I trade rooks and then take the free bishop, right? But then mate, because he self-sealed his. Now see, a lot of people would have fallen for that trap.
Yeah.
That was a very easy trap to fall for, but it proves he's a really good calculator. This is a game 45 too. He doesn't have all day, and he was unfamiliar with the opening. He was behind me on the clock, but he saw this. And another one he avoided too was really annoying. Like in this position, he avoided also king e6 here, which loses to knight e8. D7 would be dumb.
and illegal.
Yeah. No, I mean, rook d7 would be dumb.
Just swap it and take the bishop.
Yeah, I would just, swap it and take the bishop, or just take the bishop first and then swap, either one.
Yes.
Now, I'm just wondering why, okay, king e6, knight e8. Okay, let's look at here. Is this the same? It's not, because you have,
It's not the same.
I guess this is easily winning here. I'm threatening rook d6 with terrible discoveries. I've already won a pawn, winning a second. But see, he didn't fall for any of that. He played the only move, king g6. Okay, so I have this double attack. He played here, and he's praying that he could, because of the the reduced material, maybe he could draw. I felt that my rook was more active than his rook. He doesn't have infiltration, I do. So I didn't want to trade. I went here. B6 doesn't work. I just trade and then rook C6 check and then take on B6.
Hmm.
So he played here and I took here. I'm on his knight. If he takes on B5, I take on F8. So he goes here. Now he plays quite resourcefully from this bad position. He's down a pawn for not a whole lot. Okay. He sees his only chance is to maybe go here, F4, and then E3, or maybe play rook G5 or rook H5, you know, some sort of kingside raid. So I brought, this knight is out of play. Never let a piece be out of play for very long. Okay, always make sure your pieces are in play. So he goes here, and I really did not want that hovering over my head. I wanted resolution. I played here. Now again, he avoided another trap. Do you see why King F7 loses? Like, show me why King F7 loses. He went to F6, which is correct.
Oh, can you play rook b8?
That's it. Yeah, you go rook b8, and when he goes, sorry, let me make the move first. If he goes to F7, it's a blunder because then rook b8, threatening the B7 with check, and then you just take. Yeah, and then knight D6 check and take. And again, he avoided it. He sidestepped and he went here. I did not want crap hovering over my head of like rook G5 and rook, you know, H5. I immediately wanted a resolution. I go here, and I'm on his E pawn. King F5 fails to knight takes E4. So he went here.
Oh yes.
And this takes rook D7 off the table. So I'm going to start grabbing pawns. So he's going for his only prayer, okay, which is counterplay with the E pawn, but it's just not enough. He goes here. Of course, I can't take his rook because he'll queen, but I just go here. And he can, unfortunately, protect his B pawn, but I now limit his rook. And see, he squeezes every bit of activity out of his position. This cuts off King D2, which I wanted to play, and then win his pawn. He won't let me do it. So I go here. That's to cut off knight F4 ideas. So he goes here, and he wants to play rook D1 and maybe bishop F4. But I'm just going to take stuff. Okay, I'll give up a piece, fine, you know. But I think he's trying to get rid of all defenders of E1. He doesn't want to just win a piece. He wants the queen, but it's just not possible. I checked. He went here. I took here. By the way, this is because this word here is because of English influence. I've written for Everyman for like what 14 years now, and I've never had an email from them without the word rather. British people love the word rather. It's rather good or rather bad, you know. Like I really understand the word, but they love rather, and it's crept into my psyche. So I put rather greedy. Okay, so he goes rook D1. Both of us, I think, missed here.
Ooh,
And this, oops.
a subtle
Take
finesse.
and queen and check. And I think he's still losing, but you know, I mean, I have too many pawns for the exchange, but at least he could play on, you know. He
You
could
see that again? That was all
try.
rather fast.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, good stuff.
Okay,
but-
bishop takes H4 check. Okay, now he's got to cover his knight, right?
Yes.
Okay, so he moves his king.
Yeah.
And I take the bishop. Okay,
Yes.
And I did not see this. Neither one of us saw this because our clocks are somewhat low. The problem with knight e1 is he plays rook d1. And so best is just to take it.
See.
And when he queens, you give up your exchange. And it's just, I have how many pawns? 4 pawns for the exchange is too much, and white is still winning, but that was his best chance. Instead, he made the more natural move, which is rook d1. Now there's a combination here. Okay, it starts with rook h6. Let's see if you, okay, so he goes here. Okay, let me move this up so you don't see the answer here.
Hang on.
Do you see the winning idea now for white? How does white force a win here?
G4.
C4 is dangerous because he's going to do that.
No, G4.
Rook h5.
No, he'll take it.
Rook
He's on my
h5.
knight. He's on my knight too, so it's a little dangerous, that one.
How about rook takes 9?
Oh, that's good. Come on.
Rook takes knight
Well, it
should
might
work,
be.
Yeah, that should work.
Unusually for
Although,
useful in that.
although why be king takes, knight check, and knight back wins? Yeah.
Yeah.
I played it this probably many ways to win. I just did it
H5.
this way. I took, and here, and he resigned because here's the point. When he queens here, I have a Schwiezenzug. I take this, and now when I take his queen, he doesn't have time to take my rook because his rook hangs. And if he takes my knight, I'm 4 pawns up.
Tough
I
luck,
just moved
Master.
it up. Okay. Do you want me to show another game, or are you doved out, or do you want me to switch to endgame studies or anything else, or you want
I
to keep
think another
going?
game, please.
Yeah, I'd like another
Okay,
game.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay, another game. Sure.
Yeah, bring on the doves, the
Okay.
fighting doves.
Okay, another poacher here. Aldama. Okay, very strong. I am. Former American Open champion from 2015. He also won the National Open in, I think, 2017, which was miraculous because there's like 8,000 GMs in that tournament. Anyway, he's leading the Gambito. This is the final round. He's got white and he's up a half point. Okay, he does all sorts of stupid hawk things that he could have. I'm sure if he wanted a draw, he could have had a draw. You have a lot of power when you have white. You don't have to lose when you're white. But he can't help himself. He's an extreme hawk. He's an 80-20 hawk. Okay, just completely crazy. He's one of the most gifted natural tacticians I've ever seen. He's totally untrained. Okay, like no coach. Doesn't study, just BS's, just plays blitz, and wins American Open and National Open. Like, I am. He's got, I think, 2 GM norms too, but he's too old now. Unfortunately, he's like in his 50s. He's not going to be a GM. Anyway, so let me flip it. So I have to beat him. I'm in the okay. It's not flipping. Control F. Okay, there we go. Okay. So I have to beat him with black. Okay, he pretty much always plays e4. I know I'm going to get that. Now, if you desperately need a win, why in God's name would you play a Carcan? Okay, like why not Sicilian or anything else? I mean, French is double question mark because they can play the exchange line. Okay, but you could play modern Alekin's defense, any Sicilian. Even Philidor or even e5, like you could, it's more of a fighting game. Why Carcan if I'm desperate for a draw? It's because just because you have to win, don't switch your normal openings or style. Play it. If I'm desperate for win, I'll play a dry position. I'll play like a boring position because I'm best in boring positions. So why shouldn't I play them, right? So I opened with C6 anyway. Another stupid thing he did, like I say, he's really lazy. He never studies. He just plays all day on the internet. You know, just plays like Bullet and Blitz all day. And you should not go into a sharp variation the way he did. Like I played here. This is considered one of White's best lines, okay? And it's very fashionable, but really dumb too, because like I've written a book on this. I'm much stronger than he is in the opening. That's like, he's really scared of me in the opening normally, but I like, this is a sharp theoretical line. I would not have beaten him if he had played something, you know, like here, and I played my, you know, line here, take. I mean, no way I'm winning this. This is too boring. C3, and I'm not going to beat an IM in this position. It's too boring. But, you know, I kind of knew he would do this because he's, some people will stick to their principles even if it kills them, and he's one of them. He will never grovel. He will never play for a draw, even if he wins the world championship on a draw. He's one of those players. Personally, I think that's dumb, you know, because not every chess game is worth the same. If I play a bullet game, it's not the same thing as a final round game in the US Open or US Championship or state championship, you know, like a big money tournament, okay? In the final, there's no such thing as big money in chess, by the way, except for the World Championship. But, you know, for chess, a big money tournament, you know? So games vary in importance. And this guy is pretty broke, okay? He comes from, he travels up from Tijuana, and the Gambito has a crappy prize fund, like at the most like $200. To him, that's like 1 month's rent. Okay, to me, it's like I lose money that day because I'm not writing and I'm not teaching. So this meant a lot. Like he needs to win and I don't, financially, I'm saying. Anyway, okay, so he goes knight g5, which I think is a mistake, but okay, he sticks to his principles. So I go here. Does anyone know this line? Like,
can you show the h6 line?
Isn't it Kasparov's loss against?
This is that famous. This actually first happened in a game on Nunn against Nunn. I think was the one who came up with this idea, or at least revived it, against Kirill Georgiev. And if I recall, that game went like this: exclam. Now the cool thing is, if on take this checkmates black next move. It's a fool's mate. And let me try to remember the Georgiev game. I think it went like this. Okay, check. Now this is a 2700 GM playing black. Look how confused he got. Okay, here. And then Nunn, of course, is not afraid to lose this pawn. And he went here. But now this is no longer mate, right? King d8. Now, without moving the pieces, Georgiev took the knight and resigned in a couple of moves. Can someone display why that's a double question mark? He should not have taken that knight. He should have just played like knight g f6 and then give up the bishop pair with knight takes f8.
I think you've got queen h5 and bishop a5 there.
That's exactly what he fell for. It's exactly what he fell for. Check here and resigns. So 2700 player loses in 10 moves. It can happen. Everybody can have a really off day, but see, Nunn shocked him with knight g5 because when that game was played, I think that game was played maybe in the late 80s. Nobody played this line.
Who was this against?
This was against Kirill Georgiev. I mean, we can look it up. I mean, in 1 second. Okay, like h6, knight e6, fe check. Oh, I'm sorry, h6. This line here. Let me just see if Georgiev comes up.
It's really surprising how early in the game with all the time on the clock.
Georgiev.
Right. But you know something? People are very vulnerable in the opening because they don't
Yeah.
expect a combination. Your
Yeah.
guard is down. You feel safe in the opening. Look, it's the first. I think it's the.
Yeah, I see it now.
It's the very first game with it. You see, like 1988, none Georgiev. Okay, so well,
Amazing.
that's good news. Despite being so damn old, I still have a reasonably good memory. Okay, that's good. Okay. So anyway, h6 is bad. You have to play knight gf6. Okay, and then they go here, and same problem. I saw a game. I think it was a tall game where someone played here, and then boom again. See, this time the mate comes on g6
Oh,
instead of h5.
what's the Tau
You can
game
still
against Spielman? I
Is
think
it Spielman?
I think it was.
Or
might
Lembeck
have been-
Ole, maybe?
It might have been
Was
a blitz game when they were playing between rounds.
Okay, okay. I remember Tall did something like this to Lembit Ole also. Okay, so anyway, you're supposed to play e6, okay? And then here, now Kasparov against the deep blue, okay, he did h6, and this is like one of the dumbest things you could ever do against an engine. I can't believe he did it, you know, like where this is like a wicked attack for white here for the piece. I forgot if Kasparov took with the pawn or played queen e7. Both are really good for white. Like it goes like this. I think Kasparov played this version, and like okay, look at what the engine look. I bet you I'm not sure of this, but I'm pretty sure Stockfish will have white up despite being down a piece. Let's see Stockfish 14s. Oh my god, that much? Almost 2. Oh my god, over 2. Okay, that means it's a bad position for black. Computers like material, and they're really good at defense. So a little bit below 2 now. But oh, back up. If an engine likes the attacking side down a piece, I'm telling you, it's a bad line. Do not play into it. So the correct move order is here. Now there's no check. You know, there's no check on. Like this doesn't work. I mean, it's just a useless. You can even play king. Oh, the engine actually likes king g8 better, because after take here you can just trade queens, right? You're here and then just, you know, move the knight somewhere, either f8 or notice I picked the more chicken f8. Maybe b6 is better because it stops bishop c4 tricks. Anyway, completely losing for white. 2 pawns is not enough for peace here. So queen e2 now. Oh, my stupid freaking Stockfish like freezes up my computer all the time. My son is a programmer, and he does hardware, and I told him I want a really fast computer. Do not save me money. Get me a really fast computer. And he always tries to save me money. He gets me a slightly fast computer, and then it always freezes when I turn on Stockfish. Okay. He's threatening, you know, maybe knight takes f7, knight g5 is a scary threat, isn't it? But h6, the sacrifice is no longer sound. There's no check on g5, right? If you do this, there's no check anywhere. So this is good for black. And if you take on e6, it's dumb also. First of all, check, just the queens come off and black is just winning. And if you do that same idea, it's vastly inferior, because in the other one, the bishop was here and the king was on e7, like in some versions. In this one, you could just play king f8, and the bishop is already out. This pawn is not hanging. Black is winning. You just play queen e7, king g8, knight f8, and you'll unravel. Or you could also play king e7 and knight f8. You know, like castle, knight f8. And this is just lost. 1 pawn is not enough in this position for a piece. So after h6, he has to go here. Okay, so take. in the old days, I lost the game to Defermian in the mid 90s at an American Open. I played the old knight f6 and he just squeezed me. This was the old Karpov move. And then it occurred to everyone that knight f6 is a weak move. I mean, it's not weak, but not optimal. The fight is for this square. And so you play queen c7. This is the modern interpretation. Now, here's the problem. Okay, like I mentioned here, Aldama last time tried this one, king f8, and then he tried knight d2, and he lost this one. This is, by the way, an incredibly deceptive position. I checked my score with this, and I think I've won every game I've ever played in this position with black.
Wow.
I've beaten Aldama at least twice, maybe 3 times in this variation. And there was this other master who's like at 2300 who tried it on me at least 3 or 4 times and lost every time. It looks really good for white. It's not. This queen is very poorly placed. And when e5 comes, there's a coiled spring effect. Also, black's king is perfectly safe. It's just that this rook is out of play. And black can play b6, bishop b7, c5, and all of a sudden everything's aimed at the king side.
This is
all
Karpov. This is Karpov country, isn't it? I think
Karpov country is this. When he played it in the 90s, this was the main line. This was like a little after, but I mean, if Karpov played it now, he would play this line.
I thought against Anand, he had this. I can't quote it again.
I think Anand played it as black as well.
No,
Really?
No, I think it was against Kamsky. You're thinking of Anand. Oh damn, what's his name? I know the GM, but it's not Karpov. I think maybe Sutovsky, but I may be wrong about that. Anyway, this is considered now the best move. Okay, so this time he resists the queen g4. Okay. Now, okay, I'm not going to fall for this. Okay, I'm weak, but I'm not this weak. Okay, like so. All right, so
We thought you would. We didn't.
No, I fooled everyone. I didn't castle. Anyway, he had seen me play a game. I beat that other master, and he clearly prepared for that game because he was waiting for b6. The other master played this line, and I beat him with b6. And I knew he prepared for that, so I just switched up on him and I played c5. And now he got confused by that. Queen e2 or c3 is the best move here. He castled, okay, in this position. Now, what is wrong with castling here? Like he played this, okay? So, like, can someone? Well, unless you already saw it, but can someone tell me why this is a strategic error?
C4 now.
Yeah, usually that's not a very good move because you release central tension, but here it's great. It gains a tempo. He's already told me his address. He's living on the queen side, so I want to pawn storm with b5, b4, c3. And on top of it, it prevents c4, and now I can play knight f6, knight d5. And it almost makes his d4 pawn like an Isolani. You see, he can't play c4. And he loses time, and he actually found an improvement. I think this is a better move than the old bishop e2 because it gives his queen more air. So I go here. This also shows he's not understanding the position. See, black's plan is to do this, b5, b4, c3. Therefore, he should have gone to e1 and tried for bishop b4. I might have played a5, but see, then he can try knight e5, and it's getting weird. He played queen e2, so I played here. Okay, this is an involuntary novelty. I mean, he didn't know he was making a novelty, but it's an improvement over this where black, crushed the opponent. Like why in God's name would you open the queen side like this? Like the guy played this in the game, and black slaughtered him. Okay, so f3 is played. Okay, so I go here. I want to play c3. So he must stop it. He can't allow c3 at some point. I mean, he has to play this at some point. Now, why would I castle into a straight attack with h4, g4, g5? Or like, can't I attack him without castling and leave my king in the middle? Why would I risk castling? Besides the fact that I'm in a must-win situation, like why would a dove castle when I can play rook c8, a5, b4, stuff like that?
Can you go to e7? Is that what? Well,
first of all, okay, for multiple reasons. Okay, I knew I was faster, okay, after castling, but I had a very specific reason. When I castled, I knew he would play like either h4 or g4. I waited for g4, okay, because that knocks out knight g4 as an option, and I played here, okay. He goes here. Now he's on my rook, he's on my e6 pawn, and now it looks like I've really screwed this up, right? He's on his way. He's got a dangerous attacking position here now, but he doesn't. Do you have a good plan for black that greatly slows his attack? It tremendously slows his attack.
Knight f4.
I don't want to trade stuff off. He'll go knight takes knight, bishop takes knight, and then maybe g5. Or just rook g1 or something, and then g5. I don't think it's that effective.
a5?
No, I mean, it's not a bad move, but you have something. The problem with a5 is he'll play g5, and it's very dangerous. He's opening me up fast. He has a contact point here. How can we disrupt this plan? I don't want him playing g5.
e5.
F5.
Queen f7.
Yeah,
Queen
Queen
f7.
f7.
E5 would be played if I thought that his attack was faster, but it's not. Mine is faster. So I don't want to open the center. I want to keep the center closed. Queen f7 has a very specific purpose. Okay. It forces, unless he wants to lose a piece, he has to play this.
Yeah.
Okay. He certainly doesn't want to play queen e4, right? And walk into like knight takes c3, and that's game over. Right. Yeah, this would be ridiculous. And then I take here. So he has to play h5, but do you see the problem now? He just got knocked out of this, and it takes him forever to play this stuff because now he's got to move his rook. He'll be walking into tactics. If he ever plays like f4, I'm going to have tactics on his h1 rook, right? Like knight takes f4 would win. So you don't even want, by the way, someone mentioned a5, okay?
Yes.
That's a wasted move. You don't need it. You just need to play b4. I mean, it's not like I'm afraid of queen takes c4. I'm a dove, but I'm not ridiculously afraid to sack a pawn. You know what I mean? Like I would love it if he took that c4 pawn.
Rooks.
This is suicidal, like BC here. This is just, like horrendous here for him. It's a winning attack. Okay, so he decides to take it, okay? And I play rook a c8. I don't want crap here with bishop h3 and g5 tricks. So I played rook a c8. Anyway, I don't think that it's debatable. I thought about bringing the other rook and then using this one for the a rook for the b file, but I didn't think I really needed it. He played here and he's desperately trying to clog, okay? So I took with the bishop. And he's just in deep trouble here. Black's attack is just playing faster. And it's faster because I forced him, I forced him to play this h4 to h5 move. It slowed his attack down. By the way, this is a dove attack, okay? You notice I'm attacking, but I'm way ahead. I've got a big head start. Everything is logic based. There's no irrationality. Doves are okay in this kind of position. It's when the Barberin position is where we are hopeless. Like that's when things go that haywire, that's when our intuition just doesn't work. Okay, so he decided to take, I mean, there's all sorts of awful options, like queen d2 loses to take, check, king anywhere and just take here, and it's all over. Not only am I threatening the rooks, but I'm also threatening rook b8 and b2, and or rook b8 and then bishop b2. If he plays king c2, I play here, and you know he's not going to survive this. There's just too many attackers around his king. I'm on a2, I'm on c3. He can't take because a knight takes and a2 falls and c3 comes in. He has to take it. I take. Now here's a debate. Okay, I knew if I played to d3 at some point he's going to sack the exchange there. Like he might play a line like this, you know, and then give up the exchange. And I am winning and still attacking, but I thought my attack was so strong that I don't care about the exchange anyway. This knight is so strong, I don't really want to take his rook. I mean, unless I'm forced to. I'd rather just mate him. I'm playing for c3, so this is a debatable move, you know. Like, I mean, probably I should have with the tournament situation, but I remember he's a poacher, and poachers need to be punished. So this was the you're going to be punished move, not the I'm going to grind you down and win move. Okay, so he goes here, which is a good move. I think he's trying desperately to cover his second rank. He sees c3 coming. Also, he gets out a bishop takes f3 tricks, so obviously c3. And now he realizes he can't. I think he probably intended b3, but it doesn't work. See. If he plays b3, it loses right away to here. If he goes rook d3, I have bishop a6. Okay, if he goes rook d2, problem is his c1 is unprotected. I attack his queen anywhere, check, and that's not good. If he goes rook e1, then I play queen. I just move my queen, trying to get into c3. And now closer to b2, and that's it. He's collapsing. He can't play bishop c4. b4, is horrible. I'll play. Well, I'll probably play just rook e, ec1, a5, whatever. It's easily winning. So after c3, he tries this here, desperate. This b takes, pawn takes pawn check is good, but you have a more accurate move. Like, what is more accurate than pawn takes pawn? It's that Lasker thing. If you see a good move, look around, you may have a better one. You have a better move.
Queen c7, I think.
Queen c7 gains a tempo because he cannot put his rook on c2 in this version. Because then cb2 and he can't take it, and on king takes I take his rook and mate him. So he has to make like a completely worthless rook move. And now I take, and it's double check, so he can't block. Can't block anyway. And now, okay, I'm not a very good attacker, but I can handle this. Okay, this is just crushing. Okay, so I go here. I'm on his rook. And that adds another piece into the attack. Another piece into the attack, cuts off a2, opens the b file for the rook. You see, doves are great attackers when every move is obvious. It's like, right? If every single move is obvious, then I'm a superb attacker. But if there's any sort of intuition involved, then I'm doomed. Forget it. He's not going to get to my king first. This is not even close. Okay, so check. How do you continue here? Like, what do you want to play?
I'd
Rook
like
E8.
Mm.
Yeah, rook c8, I'm threatening mate. Just rook queen c1 threatens mate, right?
Oh, yes.
He has to play here. Have you ever seen those westerns where it's a friendly town and people are in the saloon, and then the bad hombre walks in, like the evil hombre walks in, and he's like a bully. He's like the gunfighter, but he's a bully, and someone irritates him. So what he starts doing is he starts shooting at the guy's feet, and he says, "Dance." And the guy has to do this dancing thing while the bullets are spraying around his feet. If you ever get a chance to do the dance thing to your opponent, always do it. This is a dance move. See, it's dance. You put your rook back to d3 there. You can even repeat it once. That annoys them even more. Like you could exclam would have been here first and then here again, and then don't take the draw. But this is the dance move, the queen d6. That has a psychological effect. People don't like being bullied. And so if you can bully your opponent, do it. Not in life, but in chess is good. Okay, so he has to go back. And now, very easy, you can just interfere with the rook's connection to a3, right? With
D3.
bishop here. Now threat is just queen takes a3.
Mm.
And normally he would resign, but he's hoping I hang my queen or play queen d5, and he hangs to knight e7. I don't know what he's thinking. Anyway, take, and then check. And now he's mated here, because my threat is rook a2 check, king b1, rook c b2 check, king c1, and then rook a1 mate. And there's nothing he can pretty much do about it. Like what I'm saying is like here. And that rook is protected, so you have a back rank mate. So you have to, what you need to do is be extremely honest with your style, okay? Like you probably know if you're a hawk or a dove and what percentage. I mean, you've probably all played chess for a long time, and you probably all know that you're 60-40 dove or 60-40 hawk. Rare is to go above the 60% mark. Most people are well-rounded players, and they're not like geniuses in one position and awful in another. Most people aren't like that, but like some people are extreme, like Ulf Anderson type. But what you need to do is figure out what you are, and then do everything you can. Your opening repertoire has to fit your profile. You have to, if you know your opponent, get the position that opponent doesn't want. You guys have, I don't know how long you've been playing each other. Like how long has everybody been playing? Have you been playing for like 20 years at your club? Or, you probably know each other incredibly well, right? You're probably all completely aware of each other's strengths and weaknesses. As an experiment, try it. Of course, now you all know what to do though, so it won't work, but it'll work on other people though. Anyway, I hope this showed you something. I mean, that you didn't think of before. This is from the book Chess for Hawks. All these games are from Chess for Hawks, from New in Chess. It was from 2016.
Very interesting.
Anything else? You guys, any questions or?
Cyrus, I have a question, if I may. Firstly, thank you very much. And
thank you also.
No, I found that really interesting. And I just want to ask you though, so this is all about playing to your natural style, but let's say you've identified your style, and instead of doing what you said, let's say try to do the opposite from a training point of view. So if you've opened at e4 because you're a hawk, and you have a series of gambits you like to play, what about playing d4 for a year to exercise that side of your And do you think that there's any benefit of that?
Here's what I tell students. I get that question all the time from students. And what I tell them is, in your blitz games, play like that. You know, try to fix your weakness. In your study, do that. Like study D4 games, you know, like study strategists like Capablanca and you know, whoever, who are opposite your style. But when you play a rated game, absolutely maximize your style. Don't play a gambit if you're a dove, and do play a gambit if you're a hawk. I mean, absolutely maximize in a rated game. This is a rated game is important. I mean, you don't want your rating to fall. And it, you know, this is, we play chess, I think, honestly, for the beauty of the game and not to kick butt, but kicking butt is pretty close. So it's an important thing, and we don't like to lose to, you know, to especially to rivals. We hate to lose to rivals. It drives me nuts, you know, like, but train in your weakness, but when it's an important, especially an important game, if it's like a who cares club game, sure, try it. If you don't care, do it, you know. But if you want to maximize your rating, don't play into your weakness. I've got so many students that do that, and I scream in a rage when they do that. I tell them only in training games, or you know, play that way with me in a lesson. I tell them not over the board, you know.
Yeah, thank you.
So other questions? Or
yeah, if you're a 60-40 dove and you know you're playing an 80-20 dove, what do you do? You have to find your inner hawk.
Then you have to be a hawk. Then you have to be a hawk. It puts 20% in your favor, right? If you're a better hawk than he is, and he's a better dove than you are, like, or not better, but like say more of a dove than you are, then yeah, you have to complicate. I complicate like crazy if I find that rare player who's a bigger chicken than me. Let me just show you like one game. Let me just show you one example of exactly that. I'm not going to show you the whole game, of course, but just I can't seem to get rid of this thing. Okay, let me find that game. Hang on one sec. Where the hell is my chess base? Oh no, I don't want to. Here. Okay, chess for hawks. Let me show you an example of that. Let me just find that game. Here he is. Okay. Okay. I'm white. Okay. This guy, Lenny Sussman, is a 90-10 dove. Okay. I mean, this guy is a major dove. Okay. He's the biggest chicken I've ever seen. Okay. If he's more of a dove than me, watch how I'm going to play the game. Okay, like, okay, I don't normally play that line. I just played I don't normally play this stuff. Okay, I have never pushed my F pawn to the 4th rank in my life. Okay, this means I'm trying to attack him. Okay. I always have my pawn here safe on F3, you know, but this is what I'm talking about. Like, you know, although I horribly bungled I mean, I won, but this game shows how bad I am as a hawk, you know, but if now see, this is a really chicken move here. Like, really, like you have no chance on the king side, but you're going to seal the queen side just so you can get your knight. This is a completely dovish mistake. Okay, like the knight will come here. Like, who cares? I'll play rook c1, bishop b1. What is your knight going to do there except for window dressing, right? So you see, like, and I'm not going to put my knight to b5. I'm using it to attack. Like, who cares about that whole? See, and I'm like, this is aggressive stuff. I don't normally play like this, but okay, it's not that brave. Look at the rating differential. I'm over 500 points higher rated. Okay, so like, but you see what I'm saying? If I'm playing a super dove, you know, like look at this Maginot line defense. Like, no, like, oh, let's do f6, you know. Like, okay, this is dove stuff at work. Look at that. But by the way, see, you betray yourself no hawk would play f5. Like no hawk in history would play f5. All hawks would play e5, opening the position. But see, you can't, sometimes you can't fight yourself. I want to squeeze him. I want to squeeze him with f5. He can't play g5. I'll just sack and it's a winning attack. But see, even there, you betray yourself. Even when you're playing another guy who plays like you will still make your typical dove mistakes if you're a dove and hawk mistakes. Hawks tend to be impatient, reckless, you know, overly optimistic, like where they think they're winning when they're not. And doves are chicken, super conservative, like, oh, let's not rock the boat. Let's everyone stay calm, you know, that kind of thing. So hawks go over the cliff is how they lose. And doves lose by missed opportunities through over caution, like too much caution. And that's the other thing. Once you recognize what you are, you have to consciously fight against your natural bad tendencies. Like my tendency is like, oh, there's that sacrifice looks promising. I better not do it. I force myself to. I force myself to, you know, like I do it anyway, even though it makes me uncomfortable. If you know it's a good move and you just don't want to do it because of stylistic considerations, you have to push that thought off. It's a chicken thing to do. And it works the opposite, of course, you know, that the hawk will look at this dubious sacrifice. Well, I know it's dubious, but it'll probably work because I'm such a great tactician. No, don't do it. Unless you're tall, don't do it.
Hey, I've got a quick question, Cyrus. In a few days' time, Carlsen will play, I can never pronounce his name, so I call him...
Well, I just say Nepo. I just finished the Pomenichi move by move, okay? And my greatest fear in the book, I'm not joking, was misspelling his name. I swear to God, I cut and pasted his name every time. I was like, I memorized how to spell it, and I still wasn't. It was like a dove fear of misspelling his name in the book, and the editor wouldn't catch it. And my greatest fear was I'd misspell his name on the cover of the book, you know.
Hopefully somebody would have corrected that, but the question, you know what the question's going to be. You know, what's your thoughts on what's going to happen, and in particular, now we've been talking doves and hawks, and I get what that means. It's a lot deeper than just what I thought it meant. How do you think the World Chess Championship will play out?
Okay, my prediction is Carlsen by 2 in regulation time control. I don't think he's going to tie this match and beat him in rapid. I think he's going to beat him by 2, at least 2. It could be a bloodbath if here's what I would do if I was Carlsen's coach and if I was Nepo's coach. Carlsen's coach, okay, just totally ignore that crap you see on Twitter or on Facebook where they go, Carlsen is not the greatest of all time. He couldn't even beat Karyakin, and he couldn't even beat Caruana. He couldn't beat them in the slow time control. Okay, it's crap, first of all. He wanted to push it into the rapid, so he was delighted to get a tied match with both of them, okay? So that argument is bogus, I think. But see, he wants to prove that he is the greatest of all time. Okay, he's in the running. He's probably in the running with just a handful of people: Kasparov, Fischer, maybe Morphy, and that's it. Maybe I don't think anyone else can. Maybe Capablanca, you know. But like, he's clearly in the running for greatest player of all time. Okay, he's easily the strongest player of all time. There's no doubt about that. But greatest is different than strongest. The strongest because he's living now. You know, if Morphy, Capablanca, Fischer, and Kasparov were all born the same year he was born, who the hell knows who'd be? Would Kasparov? I mean, would Carlsen be number 4 in the world? Who knows? Maybe 5. I have no idea. Anyway, there's a lot of pressure on him, and I know he wants to be thought of as the greatest player of all time. And if he draws that match in the regulation classical time control, that parade of he's not the greatest. You see, I proved it. He's not the greatest. He couldn't even beat, he couldn't beat Karyakin. He couldn't beat Caruana. He couldn't beat Nepo. If I was his coach, I'd say your job is not to please those critics. Your job is to win this match. And if you want to win the match, you have to play to your strength. Okay. Like I say, Carlsen is a 50-50, incredibly rare, where someone is equally good tactically with tactical intuition, attacking intuition, sacrificial intuition, and yet like Capablanca and Fischer, like technique, endgame play, Botvinnik strategic planning. I mean, in my opinion, he is the greatest player of all time. I think he is. But even if he loses the match, I think he's the greatest player of all time, because I think he'll win it back if he loses. Anyway, I would tell him, do not listen to the critics. Just you are equal as a hawk with Nepo. If anything, Nepo slightly edges you out as a hawk. Okay. If Nepo wants to go crazy on you, let it be in a position where it's intrinsically, fundamentally, inherently bad for Nepo, but still crazy complication. Then, okay, if the computer has you winning, but it's crazy complicated, go into those complications, but not if the computer has it at even and it's insane complications. So you've got to make Nepo give you that at least if he wants to go crazy. And just play strategic chess. Just try to, if you go 8-8 tie, you're going to beat him probably in the rapids. You're a heavy favorite. You've got a 2-to-1 lifetime score against them in rapids. You're probably going to beat him in rapids. You might not, but the odds are with you. Okay. So just play, don't play for a draw, but play, safe strategic chess. But, if you see an opportunity, go for it. Now, if I was Nepo's coach, I would tell him, you're not going to beat this guy in the ending. You're not going to beat him strategic, extremely unlikely. You may beat him in the opening. Okay, that depends on the teams, but probably Carlsen is underrated in the opening, by the way. People always act like he's horrible in the opening because he always veers away and plays weird stuff. He's not, he's just as good as anyone else in the world in the opening. I think they're 50-50 in the opening. There's no advantage for either side. But I would tell him, look, you've got to muck it up. Okay, don't go crazy muck it up, but any opportunity you have where you're not a massive underdog, you've got to muck it up. Now, the danger of that, of course, is you could lose by 4, okay? Like if you lose the first 2 games, Carlsen, his confidence will soar through the roof. You'll be like you'll be trembling like a 13-year-old girl at a Justin Bieber concert. I mean, you'll be so scared if you lose 2 games in a row, and you could get blown out. And that's the risk you've got to take. You've got to risk your ego and your place in history. If you want to beat him, you've got to do it as a hawk. You can't. That's the only thing you're better than Carlsen in. I would say he's a 5% better attacker, 5% better in irrational positions. And and maybe slightly better or equal with the initiative, but that's about it. Equal in the opening. Carlsen beats the crap out of him in everything else: assessment power, strategic intuition, planning, endgame play, miles behind. I mean, the last time they played, I don't know if any of you saw, they played some rapid match. Carlsen just beat him in an equal ending, just beat him in an equal ending. Beat Ferrugia too. Equal ending that should have been drawn. Do not go into an ending against Carlsen. He's the greatest endgame player of all time. And he's also the greatest defensive player of all time. That's what people don't realize. He went between summer of 2019 and late 2020. He went 125 classical games without a loss, including 2 world championship matches. Okay, I mean, people just don't understand how mind-blowing that achievement is. Nothing is even close to that. I mean, the next guy is 111 games, and it's Tiviakov, and it's there should be an asterisk around that, because Tiviakov was like 2,700, and his average rating of his opponents was like 2,500. Tiviakov was like maybe 2,675 or something, and his opponents were like 2,500. Carlsen's average rating in that 125 was 2,700, and he still beat Tiviakov. So I think Tal was really truly second. Tiviakov doesn't count because it's like me at the Gambito, you know, okay, where I outrate everybody except for the other IM I play. I'm playing like 2,300s, 2,250s. Okay, I'm a 200 to 300 point favorite in virtually every game except the one against the IM or the GM. Okay, so my score is going to be really high against those guys. I won't lose. I'll lose like one game in an entire year to those guys. But that doesn't mean I'm a great defensive player. It just means I'm a heavy favorite. So I discount Tiviakov's second place, and Tal's 80-something games is probably the real second place. 80-something without a loss. But Carlsen's 125 against the opposition that he played, like zillions of ex-world champions, you know, all these guys whose rating is 2,800. And, you know, on top of that, I don't know if you've gone over those games between summer of 2019 and later in 2020, but he didn't play safely. He was just like doing crazy stuff. He would just, in my book, In the Zone, I cover like the greatest winning streaks of all time. And for Carlsen, I picked Granke, a tournament in 2020 in Norway. Okay, I was just mystified. I looked at those games, I'm going like, what the freaking hell? You know, like he's playing classical slow games where the other guy has tons of time on his clock, and he's just every game giving away a pawn for like absolutely no reason that I could see. Okay, like here's a pawn for you. I'm so strong, I'll just give you a pawn here. And he somehow just wins anyway, like kind of like Alpha Zero, where you just don't understand his motivation. It's so deep that you don't even understand it. Like I'm an IM, I've got an engine next to me, and I'm going, why did you do that? I still don't understand, you know? So he's easily the greatest defensive player in the world of all time. And if he doesn't want to lose a game, he could easily go through that match with Nepo and not lose a game. I mean, I think he has no problem doing that. So this is the advice I would give both of them. Now, I don't think they're going to follow my advice, you know, because these guys have big egos. Okay, like first of all, Carlsen does want everyone to say, we were wrong, Magnus. You are the greatest of all time. You proved it by beating Nepo 8-0, you know, something like that. So he's going to play more. I think he is going to play aggressively, even though he shouldn't, and take chances when he shouldn't. And Nepo, I think, isn't going to take the level of chances because he doesn't want to get blown out and be humiliated. So, but the problem is both of them, their match strategy is to put their egos on the line, like completely put their egos on the line and accept humiliation if everything goes wrong. But they may do it, they may not, I don't know.
Wow,
so that's my take on it.
That's a fantastic answer, Cyrus.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, you know, there's so
I
much.
might be completely wrong. Maybe it sounds like a fantastic answer,
Well,
but who knows? I could be completely off, you know.
It sounds like it's going to be a good match, because if as you say, if Carlsen takes a risk, it could all go wrong, perhaps.
Right, right.
If he plays very safe and all that, then I don't know.
Not too safe, not too safe. Play normally, but don't go crazy. But you know, for Nepo, play normally. Like, don't avoid your Grunfelds. Don't avoid your Nadorf poison pawns. Don't play Berlin defense, for God's sakes, with black and try to draw with black. Try to beat Magnus with black with a Grunfeld. And that's going to be the big question. Is he going to chicken out and just try to hang on to draws with Berlin Lopez?
Are
Or
you
is he
gonna
going
be
to go for it
commentating-
with Grunfeld?
Are you going to be commentating on the match anywhere?
No, I'm not going to be commentating. I got offered, who offered me? Was it chess.com? Offered me some minor commentating thing. I don't have time. I can't, there is no way I have a block of 6 hours a day to, oh, sure, I won't write or teach for 6 hours a day. I mean, believe it or not, right now, I've got 7 books simultaneously, like 7, you know, like it's, so it's like, I'm writing one for the American Mathematical Society. I'm writing one for, I'm writing a series of beginner books with Karsten Hansen. I'm writing for New Chess, and I've got like 4 books piled up for every man, like in various stages. So there's no way I can spare that time.
Sounds like you're really busy with that. That's great. Hey, look, thank you very much for taking the time to join us again.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It's a pleasure. I love your club. You have a real warmth to it. I'm not just saying that just to, you know, just to say it. It's true. Like I could feel there's a camaraderie in your club, and I really feel it in your club.
That's
so thank
great.
you so much for giving me. Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity.
Well,
Okay.
thank you, and we'll put the video online. It will only be available to online members who pay, but we'll send you the links so you can see it, Cyrus. And
okay, thank
you very much again, and hopefully we'll invite you back again in the not too distant future.
That sounds great. I'm looking forward to it. Thank you all.
Okay,
Thank you.
thanks. Good
Thanks very
night.
much.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Right.